Well, welcome back to another edition of Griffith Realty's Land and Legacy podcast. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that our topics will be interesting and informative to you. Today, Carol and I are going to discuss a little bit about the fact that with a new year upon us, we can reflect as to what happened last year and share a little bit of the statistics of the last year. As Carol would agree with me, I'm pretty sure, it was an amazing year. Real estate, despite all the things that are happening in our world, with supply chain and so forth, real estate has certainly been good, hasn't it?
Real estate's been robust, Scott, so it's been quite interesting because when we started even 2 years ago with the concerns of COVID and how we couldn't show houses and buyers couldn't look at houses and sellers were concerned to have people in their house, it's interesting in 2 years how there's been an uptick in real estate, and we've been able to maneuver some of those hurdles, and yet the demand for real estate is still very robust right here in Livingston County.
And you know, I'd be remiss not to say how appreciative and grateful we are for our friends and clients that have worked with us to help us have some of the best years we've had in real estate and put their trust in us. We are really, really grateful.
We are grateful to loyal clients that we've had and the longevity that the company has had, and hopefully that's what has attracted our clients back to us and new clients too, for the resources that we have and the experience that we have here, and the love we have for our community and our profession, of course.
So looking back at 2021, I have the report from the Livingston County Association of Realtors, MLS, and there's just some remarkably interesting data that affects everybody. Probably the item that jumps out and is forefront in everybody's mind is how much prices have gone up on an average. The average sale price in Livingston County as of the end of the year for residential homes was $385,750. It's a 15% increase.
Which is just amazing.
And
it's absolutely amazing.
And, you know, when they do CPI, and I think the big number at the end of 2021 was how much inflation was based on CPI, housing goes into that, and we're not unique in our area where we are. So when they start talking 7% inflation, a huge percentage of that is our doggone housing going up so much. Not enough supply and many buyers, you know.
And it's not just here in Livingston County. What's interesting is it's unique throughout the statistics for the National Association of Realtors too. I mean, we're blessed to be in a community that's so vibrant. Which
is almost as amazing. So taking your and my experience of being in the industry over 40 years, and our dads and our grandfathers, and yet the percent of price received of asking price was 101%. That means the average home sold for 1% more than the asking price. There's never been a time that I said to you, if you list your home with me, that'll be the starting point and we'll take nothing less.
I think of all the statistics, that is the one that just grabs me the most, because, you know, you can remember when we first started you know, especially if you were taking out first-time buyers, they'd bring their parents, and, well, you know, you can't offer full price to a seller. You got to negotiate this. Nobody pays full price. And, you know, now you try to tell somebody that, and they say, well, if you want to start below the asking price, you certainly aren't going to get the house.
I mean, anecdotally, this weekend, I had someone make an offer, and they decided they were investors, and they decided to make an offer below the price. And the agent was very polite to let me know that they had 13 offers, and all but ours was over the asking price. Sort of sent a message, doesn't it?
Well, and sometimes people lose a couple before they actually get the hang of it. But nonetheless, that is just a very, very interesting statistic that we have not seen before in our careers.
And another thing that's hitting us very hard is the fact that there is such low supply, that the average home, the month's supply of homes on the market compared to the amount of time it takes to sell them was less than a month. So it means all the inventory on the market, based upon its absorption rate, could be sold in less than 30 days. So in the in a house that's more affordable, the homes are turning over 2 times in a single month. So all of a sudden, looking at monthly statistics have very little to do with what's really happening in the market. It's hard to judge the market.
That alone is just mind-boggling. I can remember when we first were in real estate. It was not unusual to take a listing contract, have one signed by a seller, and we'd say, well, within 6 months, 9 months, well, we'd have your home sold.
Oh,
and so
and you might be the second realtor to list a house because people were disappointed it took so long with the first realtor. So things certainly have become a different world.
It has been, and it's important that buyers and sellers keep up with these trends that we're talking about. Just, the whole point here is that they're more educated. So when they're going to be a buyer, they know the expectation and the expectation for the sellers too.
So as you talk about selling, so this could be a year where, like, one of our listeners are sitting and they're saying, this could be the year we need to sell. Either we want to sell, we need to sell, maybe we want to seize the opportunity because prices are up, and they haven't done it in a long time. And I think it could sometimes be very intimidating. And frankly, there is no primer book out there that says this is the way you do it. So they don't even know where to start. So I think if you'd like, I think we ought to talk about a little bit about what would that process be?
Well, and I think that's what, as professionals, well-rounded professionals as we are, that's where we can give some real guidance to sellers. We can help them be prepared for the market and give them the resources in terms of where they should look to be educated on the market and valuation. So we're not just valuations, but we're there to be a good resource to give a good foundation in terms of what's happening in the marketplace. And then lastly, where might be a good place in the house or their property to help with that valuation and tell them what buyers are looking for and what tends to be trends.
So let's start there. There's going to be probably two or three big things we should talk about. So first is everybody's going to say, I wonder what the value of my property is. And as you know, Carol, everybody has Zillow. Everybody knows what Zillow is, and everybody has looked at their house, their neighbor's house, and probably people they don't even know is home to see what the value is.
I think Zillow is kind of the Facebook of real estate. You can see what your neighbor had for dinner last night. So I think everybody looks on Zillow. There's some misconceptions about Zillow.
I think that's the biggest thing we need to talk about is what is Zillow. Zillow is called a valuation model, and the reason they call it that is because there are many of these out there. It's just Zillow's the most famous, and it's a methodology where a computer company a million miles away takes all this data, puts it through algorithms, which is just saying a computation, and decides what the value of some specific home a million miles away is that they've never seen. There are many different of these models so that nobody thinks there's just one, and everybody's got an opinion. Many of them rely heavily upon the assessment records because they can't get enough data of sales records. So they're using really what the tax assessors are saying, not so much what the comparables are saying.
Correct.
And so to my point for having gone through that discussion, I'd like to believe that a real estate professional who sells in your market, who sells homes regularly and does it for a living, has a better grasp of knowing what a walkout basement adds to the value of a home, or the fact that you have a large multi-tiered deck versus a home that doesn't, is going to do. And so it's important for anybody who's thinking about going out there to actually take the time and call someone like you or I hope you or I, but a professional in our industry, to come in and just discuss what's the fair value of their home and not rely on a third party who's never seen their house. I honestly think you just do not get a true, refined idea. Now, if all you want is just a swag or you're not really going to do anything about it, it's probably fine. It keeps you, it's fun, if nothing else.
That's right. The AVMs have a place. Maybe in some areas it could be a starting point. I think one of the interesting things about Livingston County is we are so diverse, and we've talked about that before. So to have an automated system spit out a valuation that's never seen your house is pretty tough, because in Livingston County we have houses that are in subdivisions, and they might be on a half acre, a quarter acre, and then some of those houses sit on a subdivision that has 2 acres. Or we have a farm that's 120 acres, or we have a cottage on the lake. So to have a calculation spit out automatically, it many times is just so wrong.
Oh, I just hope people know that since we do it for a living and there is no cost to you to have us come out and talk to you and give you and look at your home and talk about the valuation of your house, that people know that we want to be approachable. We want to come out. We're happy to come out and do that. We'd actually be honored that you think of us to come out and do it. We'd like to come out, take a look at your house, and that way you're going to get our best opinion, and then you'll be able to make a educated decision about whether this is the year or not to sell if we do it. Now
yes, and this is a good time of the year to have someone come
that's
out.
kind of talk about.
So we can kind of.
We're all thinking about it in spring, right?
Right. So that evaluation that we can give is a range. Yeah. So we usually like to give a range and say, your house would typically sell from here to here based on a few things, and then we can go into those items that might bring a variation in a sales price, which would be, interiors or updates, floor plans, functional obsolescence is something that we talk about occasionally. You might have, a house that has a lot of square footage, but it functionally doesn't work as well as some of the other houses.
And that kind of leads into what I was thinking, the other point we should discuss is, so what are some of the things, Carol, you can think of that people can do prior to putting their home on the market that you think would be the most significant or the best things they could do to try to get their home ready for marketing?
Well, what I have seen, and I think the statistics backs this up too, is kitchens and bathrooms are still really, really important to buyers. And so when you think about it, that's where a household does a lot of their living, is the master bedroom and the convenience of bathrooms and also the kitchen area. I know that houses that I've gone out to in the past too, and then I said, well, this could bring a little higher dollar. A good rate of return would be to take a look at your kitchen, and look at the cabinetry and the appliances and so on and so forth. And many times sellers would say, well, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to let the buyer do that because I don't know what they would want. Well, that's where our professional comes in. We know what buyers are looking for and what they're seeking. And we also know that a lot of buyers don't have that extra cash to put into make a huge modification when they move in, or have the resources to find those people to do those changes.
As you and I know, I mean, sometimes we're talking things as simple as let's just paint some rooms that need freshening up, or colors need to be neutralized, or maybe the deck.
Change a light fixture.
Maybe a deck needs some boards repaired and needs some staining. And sometimes you're too close to the forest, too much in the forest to see the woods. It's a case that you just need that third party to say, this item's important. Now, that item may not be, and because we have many people who are more worried about all those items, and the reality is you're selling a resale home, so there are some things that are going to be left to the next buyer. That's just the way reality is. You can't do everything, or you might not move, right?
Well, that's right, and I do think you're correct. In many cases, we all know in our own homes we're so used to maybe coming in that same door every single time that we didn't notice that maybe you don't use the front door. And maybe just need some new hardware. Maybe that would dress things up. I mean, one of the toughest things in our business, I think, is, trying to find a seller to find the key to the front door. No one uses the front door unless they have company many times. But anyway, there's a lot of things that the professionalism that what we see in the marketplace, just to be invited into a house to kind of lay out a plan, if you will, and also say that maybe these are projects, small projects, maybe large projects that could be tackled to make sure that the first impression is the best and a seller would get top dollar.
Yeah, and I think, the third item probably would be is the process of selling your home is a process, but that's what we know. Mm-hmm. And it isn't a case that if you haven't done it in a long time or never done it or can't remember, you should have anxiety over it. That's why we're there. So we would be honored, and any professional in the real estate industry would be honored to come out and spend time with you. It isn't an inconvenience. You're not imposing. It is what we do. We go out and look at homes. So to invite us out, to allow us to guide you through a few decision processes, to be able to show you the process so that you better understand it, is not by any means an inconvenience for us nor an imposition. We are so glad to do it. We'd be honored to do it. I can't imagine any real estate professional that wouldn't be. Just so people understand that is what we do.
Yes, there's no charge for that.
And there's no cost. We get paid on commission basis, and there's no commission on our talking to you.
And it's interesting that, we're knowledge-based.
Yes.
But we don't get paid until the transaction happens. Right. At the very end. But I think sometimes people forget that because we've been in the business so long, we have a big book of resources. So in this day and age, it's hard to find reliable contractors. It's hard to find contractors in general that maybe could do something or fix something or repair something or add something on. Or, we know going through home inspections what might be a red flag for another house when they get to that process once they're going through the sales process. So I'd like to think of us as we're problem solvers and resource people, and why wouldn't you take advantage of that so that we can help you get through the process? Because we want that process to be the easiest process we can for our client and the most satisfying.
I do say there is one caveat currently in the current market, and before you and again, we can help you with this, but before you just decide this is the time to seize the moment and sell my home for so much, you need to be asking yourself, what is my plan? Because in a market like this where it's not if we'll sell your house, it's when, and sometimes when is so quick, you really need to know your strategy for where you're going to go.
Absolutely.
There's not many buyers who are willing to let you sell your house and then wait for you to make a decision on what the next step is. So
you need a plan.
You really need your target and your landing target before you start with this process. And whether you do that with our input or whether you do that on your own, there needs to be that kind of planning before you even get to it. But this is the time of year to be thinking about it.
Absolutely.
And it's a fun thing to do when you get past the anxiety of I haven't done it in a long time. And I think that working with third parties like ourselves can make it more fun because you can share ideas and you can maybe get perspectives you haven't thought about. So I think the spring is the time, and we're in the middle of the thought process of coming into spring, and the lakes are going to thaw out. I hope someday, and we'll have the chance to enjoy what makes Livingston County such a beautiful place to live. Any thoughts, Carol, about the process of getting out there and thinking about this in the spring?
Well, I think almost the sooner the better that you can contact a professional to assist with that plan. As we talked about, the timetables have changed from maybe the last time someone has purchased or sold a home. And also, if there are items that need to be taken care of, not knowing, what it is, but you've probably heard on our previous podcasts, some things are longer lead items if you're replacing things, such as windows or appliances and of the such. So we can assist through all of that and really give you a clear expectation on what we think based on the house that we see, when it should even be placed on the market.
Timing is everything.
The timing is everything. And then what you touched upon is so important, is where are you going to go? It's a great time to be a seller, but you also need to know where you're going to go to be a seller too, because the buyers are moving quickly.
So with that, if any of our listeners are looking for some knowledge, data, whatever about the market, we're here to help. Hopefully there's something that can be learned. We're happy to communicate with you in any format you'd like. So thanks for listening and watching, and we look forward to another edition of our Land and Legacy in the near future.
Yes, and look us up on either our website, or you can call us where Scott and I are at the office daily.
Our website's griffithrealty.com, just so you know.
And we'd be happy to talk to you and help you assist with a plan.
So thank you.